Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world today. My name is Martin Redmayne. Welcome to our latest one-to-one digital dialogue. Today I'm joined by Rene Bremer from the AkzoNobel Group, a very well-known individual in the world of paint. I've called this session Reducing Waste, how to control time, money, materials. And I think this is a very, very hot topic, not only from a point of view of sustainability and all the various buzzwords of today, but more about the owner's interests and also the amount of times we've heard about wasted materials or even litigation due to problems with the system. So I'm hoping we have a really candid conversation about this topic of reducing waste. Rene, how are you today?
Thank you, Martin, for introducing and welcoming me. I'm doing fine, thank you very much. Also, given the circumstances, we're lucky. The family and friends are all good and safe in these times. Please stop sending over the crappy weather here in the Netherlands. It's raining and snowing at the moment as we speak on April 7th.
Yeah.
But the rest is all fine and it only can go better. So that's good. All good. Thank you.
So let's dig straight into this, Rene. We've talked about this many times before over the years, you and I. Waste is a horrible thing to think about. It's not just rubbish. It is all those things that you and I have discussed in terms of the inefficiencies or the inability to control product or performance or even the budget. What frustrates you, Rene, about this whole thing?
Frustration. Yeah, I think that's the right word. It's the waste you don't see, and if you know where to look at, you recognize it. Waste is not the empty cans in the garbage bin. That's too easy. You can recycle them, and also the plastics. That's not waste. Waste is more the misalignment with expectations of owner and yards, and regardless if it's a single owner or a management company. Do you have the right expectations, the right coating systems applied on the right yards? I mean, if you have a sister shadow vessel, it should not be exactly the same conditions as the main vessel, for instance. What is more waste is non-material related. That's the frustrating part, and I come to that maybe later on. If you focus only on paint, you think about overspray, etc. But it's more the process. Are the materials placed at the right spot? The painters, etc. Don't walk a marathon every day from A to B, from the paint shop to through the scaffolding to the object, vice versa? Can it be more efficient, for instance?
Yes,
that's more about waste than only what's in the garbage bin. And if you allow me to continue, it's more if you look at from a coatings world perspective, that a 35 euro can be cheaper, more valuable than a 25 euro can. It can be more expensive. So it's more about a lot of money versus cheap and expensive. Expensive is waste. That's too much. A lot of money means it's value for money, and you have to combine the expectations, the process, and the products together, and that should be in a very sensitive balance. And I think all of us in the industry have to look out for that sensitive balance. And if there is a balance, the more balance there is, the less waste there is.
So can I ask you a question on that topic of materials, Rene? There's often the stories we hear about the number of times a boat has to be reshot or repainted, resprayed, etc. And all these other things that create these sort of frustrations or, let's say, delays to a project. Does that still happen as much as it used to?
Yes, we don't see it less, to be honest. The expectations and the miscommunications on front, that's the root cause of it, are as high as it was, to be honest. And it's getting more interesting here because the coating industry and the coating application as such is getting in a much more high-tech industry. The spray guns that we use, let's say a few years ago, compared to the spray guns we use now or we're going to use in the future, they're more high-tech. So they are focused on the more transport efficiency the coatings come to a higher degree. We see the old school ingredients at the moment fading away because there is shortage in the industry as such. We face at the moment here in 2021 enormous crisis in the worldwide transportation. So the whole material flow, as well as the technical product in the can, is changing.
Yeah.
As well as the inspections. What we see is first drones step on site for inspections, for instance, things we never faced before. So it comes to a higher level, meaning that applicators and also the circle around the applicators require more training to feel comfortable. And the Germans have a fantastic word for that. They call it Fingerspitzengefühl. You have to speak to the product in your hands. You should know by your fingertips how it feels, how it speaks to you. Well, if you have products getting to a higher technique or circumstances that require a higher technique, then you have to adapt or change your application skills, require retraining both on site or on the training facilities, and we have plenty of them, as you know, worldwide, to offer that training to speak to the systems in order to demand the expectations that we all have agreed with upfront the project.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so on that topic, there is like, how much time do you think we could save on a project if we were applying logic, intelligence, and better planning?
Well, it's a very that's a $1 million question, Mark.
No, of course it is. Yeah, sorry.
That's a $1 million question. You have to chop it into small pieces. There are certain parts in the coating process in where a spray application is much faster than a hand application. I mean the filler process. It's all depending on the yard, the circumstance on the yard, and the type, the model of the yacht that is applied of. What is interesting in the industry, and that's the experience I have from my previous work in the aerospace. Um, if you run a marathon, you have a little chip on your shoe leads, so you can see exactly the time you run that marathon. What we did is every employee on the scaffolding had a GPS device in his shoes, and anonymously we could track and trace the movements of the employees as well as the forklift, etc. So the main question is the paint shop and the paint mixing facility and the object, are they in optimum line?
Yes.
And we found that the forklift, for instance, drove 10,000 kilometers a year in that hangar because it was a completely wrong setup. Some employees they run half a marathon a week from A to B. So it was not criticized, but it was opening or analyzing, is there any waste, time-wise, labor-wise, in that project? Can it be more efficient? And those are very interesting exercises to see if on the short term, with very small investments, we can make an optimum effect in the hangars.
Yeah.
And then you see a lot of hours that you can save. The same as if you use lifting or pumping devices like we do now, is the health and safety. What we also see, if you do 3D scanning, then you know exactly where on the surface, how many volume you think you have to apply. So it's not in the blind applying and sanding it off until you have the right shape, but it's more precise how much volume of product you have to apply on the substrate.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what I mean with high tech entering the industry to make it more efficient. And it's not so much about the paint. I mean, if you sell 10% more or 10% less, okay, that's good for our business. But what's more important, if you have to send off 10% extra applied, man, that's a hell of a job.
That's waste as well.
Exactly. So there's man hours, that's a lot of dust and powder coming off, but also the health environment of the employees. That's also, if they're unnecessary, unhealthy, it's also a lot of waste. And then you see if you cut the process in little pieces and you sit along the table with the people involved, And with a brainstorm session, or I would say a thought shower session, you come to a weight reduction. And again, there's nothing to do with with the cans in the garbage. It's all about the process.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is where you have to step into in your little helicopter, hover above the project, and see where it can be optimized.
So that example you just gave about aerospace, was that driven by the manufacturer or by a combination of parties?
It was a combination of parties. We were contacted by a company who consulted this, and we have contacted two main airlines. One of them was in my region. It was a session of 2 or 3 weeks, quite a session.
Yeah.
Um, one of the funny things is that the toilets were in a complete wrong position of the building. The way up and down, and the washing rooms, because they have to wash their hands frequently before lunch, etc. The washing rooms were not in line of the footpath of their work. And so small adjustments helped a lot in hour savings of 70 hours.
Yeah.
Uh, Times how many is it? Let's say 30 pounds an hour, 30 euros an hour. So that adds up pretty fast.
So what was the overall saving, roughly?
The overall saving was over 10% in the project.
Yeah.
And it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And those are all the things you normally don't recognize because they're invisible. If you see a can of paint falling over or half full in the garbage bin, that's what you see.
Yes.
If you see a pile of rags, that's what you see. Wasted hours, you don't see. Overspray, you smell and you have your remarks, but you don't see it. And that's also something in the that's more in our line actually is the overspray. If you reduce that, a classic gun with too much pressure or too small orifice might have an overspray of 70%, 70. That all goes through the fan, will
Yeah.
be filtered off, but it's gone.
Yes.
So it's also is also technically seen application wise is how to adjust the right settings in order to have the optimum transport between gun and substrate. So it's a complete picture actually from main lines filtered down to very defined lines. And we're open to discuss with anyone who likes to have more information on this. It's not that we have all the knowledge in house, but we have some experience here and there that we like to share.
So,
And then we come to a more not a better result, but more to a balanced and more optimal result. And
yes.
that's waste management and also sustainability.
Yeah. So on that topic, though, it's interesting to look at that from which shipyards do you think are applying that sort of thought process or are operating with an efficient painting application process?
Well,
Today?
that's something you don't look always behind the curtains actually, or look in the kitchen of a restaurant. So undoubtedly there are shipyards that have their quality department, because that's where it belongs to. The quality department pretty much lined up in the efficiency. There are also shipyards, certainly, that they say, okay, we always did it that way, and we will do it that way because it goes well. And this is the trick actually to make it alert. And yeah, sometimes you have to step up and look into the mirror, or step into the helicopter. That's a better explanation, and to see how is my process doing, and where to find things to improve. And most of things don't require a lot of investment, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think that's interesting, Rene, in terms of when we look at the industry and over the last, let's say, 10 years or so, it's quite interesting to see as a marketplace how much time is wasted across various projects due to what you said earlier on, lack of understanding or lack of communication between owner, intermediary, and shipyard, so that everyone really understands what the objective is.
Exactly. And if please allow me to give you one more little example.
Yeah.
If a super yacht is to be cleaned regularly, preferably daily, but you look at the size, it takes a few days to wash her down during a voyage. And when you finish, you can start again because it's been a few days before since you've been there. The same happened in the previous industry that I've worked in. The cleaning process is a sweet water process. And sweet water, we all know, is scarce and quite expensive,
Yeah.
especially if you're sailing or if you are in harbors with desalinated water, etc. With an added layer in the coating system, and it's not counted for every yacht, but for some yachts, if you add a clear coat to it, for instance, your cleaning process is much easier because the adhesion of pollution and sand and dust, because 60% of the time yachts are in marinas or in the sunny part of the world, not the part that we are in at the moment. So they're covered with sand and dust. It all has to be washed off.
Yes.
If you have a clear coat, let's say you have to protect the table or the desk you're at the moment, you have to put a glass plate on it. You can do it on coating systems the same. So you save a lot of water. And in the aero industry, it was a saving of 60% of sweet water savings on clear coated systems. So if you upfront and the front end of the project explain this to an owner, okay, what is your sailing area?
Yeah.
What is your expectations of the cleanliness, etc.? There is an option. Please hear that if you apply a clear coat, you have a much lower washing interval, and the washing you do is easier with less water. So if you go for the option, perfect. If you don't go for the option, also perfect. But please bear in mind, you need more effort and more water to clean. So if you offer all the options up front with the implications after that, then then it's also you are managing the waste actually, or that's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's another topic of the waste, let's say, equation. Waste is not just in the project at build phase. Waste is over its life cycle. And when you look at paint and the amount of, uh, as you say, protection, cleaning, maintenance, etc., over time, it does become a very expensive part of the operation.
Yes.
And I wonder how, going back to your clear coat topic, is how many yachts are currently aware or thinking about that or have applied that with that waste management in their heads? Is it becoming more prolific, or is it still, we'll think about it later?
I think the last one. A clear coat is mandatory if you have a special effect color. So if you see the sparkling effect trend at the moment, we see more and more. So from that perspective, we see a higher number of yachts in clear coat. But that's from a coating technical perspective. From a cleaning perspective, not many. And we ring the bell pretty much, to be honest, special yacht owners and yachts that are in the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, and more often in the Gulf, actually,
Yes.
the Persian Gulf, because there you see a high influence of sand, dust, and also air pollution. The gas exploration produce a lot of sulfur in the air.
Yes.
If you go further east towards Singapore and Japan, you see a lot of volcano activities in the air as air pollution, and that all has their impact.
Yes.
So that's where clear coats have a higher or have a good contribution to the cleaning process and less impact. And that's not something you see immediately. So that's not something that's triggered immediately. It's more the paint technical background. Okay, it's a glitter coating, which has quite a coarse pigment, so that needs to be clear coated. So from that perspective, we see more and more.
Yeah. But what does it add to the project in terms of time?
Well, not so much actually. I mean, the scaffolding is there, and if you go for base coat clear coat, you can even apply several layers in a very short period. So if you go to the classic coatings, you have to apply. It should react very well. Then should be sanded, and then should be clear coated. If you go for base clear, that's a system, actually is one system that comprises a color base and a clear coat on top with the variations. You can go for the classic clear coats, you can go for the new generation clear coats, but it's all details. So the added cost is not, certainly in relatively seen, not so much,
Yeah.
because the painters are there, the scaffolding is there, the project is hot, it's going there anyway. Or you take a combination. You see the superstructure in clear coat and the top side, the hull, in a single stage. I mean, you can also do combinations. The same as your shadow vessels to do the hull, the top side in a commercial system like marine, and the superstructure, certainly the side areas, in a clear coated system. So everything is possible, because you can also work the other way around. Why should you overreact a coating system in where less is also acceptable?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, if you have a yacht that goes for her class inspection or refit anyway in 2 years' time, don't apply a clear coat with a soupy doopy coating system. Apply a system that's just good enough for the next 2 years. That's it.
Yeah.
If you go for a longer run, if you go for high end performance, if you go for high expectations, then it's really a project to line up all the little pieces and bits in the project, to have the maximum quality towards the expectations. And that's one of the definitions of waste.
No, it's a very fascinating subject, because I think people do not necessarily think about the life cycle enough, in my opinion. I think that there's a very big topic that we explored in terms of how long a system should last, and how it's maintained. And what you just described is part of that mind shift we need to apply. Because if you can reduce the amount of cleaning time for the crew, or improve the efficiency of cleaning time for the crew on a big yacht, that's a significant amount of time. And also, it has other implications in terms of environment. So let's change a little bit of direction, Rene. I'm interested in your view on the current landscape of paint consultants. How do they help the process and improve efficiency and reduce waste? Or how could they, I should ask?
I think the paint consultants have a very important role here, since they are in that helicopter. They are in that helicopter to oversee a wider scope than the individual suppliers on the project. And they should ask on behalf of the owner, on behalf of the yard, or as an independent, depending on whose behalf they are in the project, um, constantly should ask the question, what we have agreed with and what we see, is that in line with each other. And I think out of the box thinking and process thinking is one of the core activities of the consultancies on board, regardless it's a paint consultancy or any other consultant or owner representative.
Yeah, but do you think they're consulted in the right way by the client in terms of how can you add more value and reduce waste, or are they brought in purely to be the paint police, let's call it?
Yeah, there are several heads on people, on the yacht and in projects. Yes, you see sometimes the paint police showing up, and well, yeah, you can question yourself if that's the right way forward, because you're in the game all together to make the best result for it. So it's better to stimulate and to find improvements than to punish. On the other hand, most of them luckily are in a good way, and see overlook the entire project, and see also their position and position of stakeholders in the project, the participants in the projects. But you're right. It's always a sort of, because I feel that undertone. There's always a sort of tension. It can be positive. It keeps you alert and awake, to get the best quality, and to get the best, how say it, the best output during the project.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, final sort of commenting question is, what's your expectation for the future? What do you think is coming from an industry point of view, but also from a paint point of view? What are we looking towards?
From a paint perspective, I think within 5 years, you see more change than the past 50 years. And this is where it's a sort of contradiction because the yacht industry as such is very conventional. If you see the application process, the products that we have now in the can, uh, yes, they have improved, but they don't vary much of the products of 5 years and 10 years ago, apart from product details. What you see in the coming years is that crucial ingredients we use become completely seldom, rare. At the moment, it's April 2010, 2021, sorry. Um, we see already scarceness on copper, zinc, and epoxy because
Yes.
the world is changing. All the Teslas of this world, they drain away a lot of materials that we use in coatings because they use it for the batteries.
Yeah.
Also, the environment is under very much high pressure. So, if you see the super yacht as such, it could well be that the underwater systems on super yachts change in the years to come into complete biocide-free coating systems. That means that technology is different, application will be different, expectations will be different. The class should adapt it for certification, etc. So, um, paint technically wise, it's under very positive change. I mean, it goes very fast, which is good for the industry. Application wise, if you Google down 5 minutes, Martin, you see a lot of drones at the moment on the website for coating applications.
Yes.
We use drones at the moment for underwater inspection. In the aero, we use drones for the superstructure, the stabilizer inspection. So at 20 meter of height, they do film thickness 3D scanning by drone at the moment. So also the technology around us is changing very, very fast. Um, Powder coatings will come to the market, and a powder coating you think about high temperature baking. Now, we have introduced a low temperature baking powder, so that will be transported at low temperature. It will be cured at ambient or a bit higher than ambient temperature at the moment.
Yeah.
So, um, it is very, very much under development. Also, if you look to other industries, it's always nice to look over the fence to your sisters and brothers, like automotive, aero, and deco, where robotized application is daily business. And I understand it's more because a car has the same model every time, repetitive. So, but if you look to the robot technology these days, there are two headed. One headed is measuring, and the other head is doing what the first one is measuring. So also bespoke substrates and surfaces uh, will be applied or can be applied by robots. Although it will not say it will be implemented next week, but you have to be open for all the technologies we see around us and where that fits into the process. So it's getting more and more high tech, and the human factor, not the human hours, but the human factor, so the failure factor, will become less and less by the automation.
Yeah. Yeah. And in terms of your finger on the pulse, what's happening in the market today? Positive, confident. What's the future looking like from your perspective?
I'm very positive, to be honest. First of all,
Yep.
the market is there. The market is good. What you see is saying this old lad is that the new generation is coming in,
Yeah.
which is speaking a different language than we do. To be honest, we still have a pen and paper. I got a pen and paper in front of me, for instance. They only have screens and think in Excel spreadsheets, are very mathematical.
Yes.
That's what you see in the industry. The average age and the experiences is quite conventional. But I do see a lot of things in the industry which getting more and more high tech. So the coating application and also the coating preparation, like scaffolding, and think about cherry pickers, robots, etc. That comes very fast, and the combination of the healthy industry and the technology that rolls into the industry, I think that's very, very exciting. That's
Yeah.
very exciting.
Yeah. Okay. Last question, Rene. If you could change one thing about our industry, what would it be? Anything.
What would I change in the industry? Um, Somehow we have to get rid of the scaffolding.
Okay.
That's that's something we should be creative here to go up all those ladders every time. I'm pretty tall, 6'6". I can't stand on the scaffolding. I have to go through my knees with a helmet, bumping my head. It's hot, it's sweaty. So if we can change that environment, I don't know how, but if we can change that environment somehow to access the yacht in a more open way under the same circumstances, creating the same quality, that would be fantastic.
Okay. Interesting topic. That may be a little brainstorm we have to have.
Yeah, it's really out of the box, and a lot of things should change, but scaffolding is is for me a hurdle.
But it's also very old-fashioned technology that
It
there
is.
must be some intelligent solution we could explore in the future. I like that topic. I like that topic. All right, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so everything's about reducing waste, controlling time, controlling materials, but also the money aspect. Do you think the painting of yachts in the future will become less expensive is the wrong word, but just more transparent?
I think like everything on board a yacht is getting more transparent. What we see today already is the 3D scanning. So parts, but also the entire yacht is mapped. So you can see exactly how many liter of filler you need for filling a fairing.
Yeah,
5 years ago, the 3D scanning was completely new.
yeah,
So the next step is that you apply exactly what is required on that surface.
yeah.
So it's getting more and more transparent. Um, in situ, so during service of the yacht, underwater inspections. This was future 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Now you see underwater robots for all-time inspection. You can make sensors. Um, so it's getting more transparent. What is required when? It's all about data gathering, and I think that's the holy word here. We
Yes,
see more and more data gathering from the new builds, from the refits, from the in-service of the yard, the temperature built up, the frictions, the tensions of the hull. So you see more and more data gathering. The more data you have, the more transparency. And data gathering, you can always link one-to-one to quality. The quality feeling of the process or the in-service. It all comes with data. And I think, Martin, this is for the next years. We see so much data coming to the table on projects. And this is how to manage the data and transfer that into into the application or the workflow on the floor.
yeah. So that will always drive a waste reduction throughout the whole process from now on.
Well, the more data you have, the more you control the efficiency, so the less waste. And not only the liquid waste, but also the man hours waste and the sickness leave, etc. waste. That's I think more of importance.
Yeah,
So the more data comes to surface, the more manageable and controllable everything is.
yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Rene, thanks a million for your time. I really enjoyed that conversation. I think we need to look at that tracking process as well within a shipyard. I think that can be a very interesting exercise to almost use a team to sort of track their how many marathons they walk in a week. Because yeah, you can imagine there's a lot of time to be saved there.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Rene, thanks a million, and I look forward to seeing you again soon in another virtual world or hopefully in a physical world soon.
As soon as possible, face to face, that the blockage is gone.
Absolutely. All right.
Good.
Thanks a million again.
Thanks very much.
Take care.
Bye.